Start a new stream. So I'm going live now. Hey, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy, the brain of the mainframe, Nile Scala here for another fantastic episode of Crowdfunding Comics with the man, the myth, the legend, the man, Mr. Billy Tucci. How we doing tonight, Billy? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It was a little bit of a sad day. As you know, Notre Dame caught fire, and that definitely hit home. You know, as a place that I enjoy and visited a couple times, and just an inspiration. So hopefully they can reconstruct somewhat of the building. But anywho, how's everything going with you, my friend?
But, you know, we've got a job to do. It's 850 years old. I think fire won't keep Notre Dame down. So we'll see it rise again, and it's going to be glorious and really inspiring. I can't wait for that to happen. So anyway, but here we are, episode 11, brother. Great to see you. Great to see you guys all out there. Sorry about we had a little tiny glitch. We had to restream, didn't we, Nile?
Yes, we did. YouTube glitched us out, but we are here. We are live, and we're ready. And we started off planned with one guest, and then we were gifted with two fantastic guests tonight. And Billy, who do we have going live with us tonight?
Well, all right. I'm going to give a little intro. Okay, you ready?
I am ready. I'm fired up.
All right, crowdfunding centurions and crusaders the world over. Welcome to episode 11. So tonight's episode, we're really jazzed because, like Niall said, we've got not one but two amazing talents who are crushing it with crowdfunding and their independent visions. The first is a U.S. Army veteran, writer of over 50 original titles, such as Ravage, Kill All Men, The Magus, Inner Demons, and the Off-Worlder, The Protectors of Sarah. Aside from being a creator, he's also the founder and editor-in-chief of Cautionary Comics. But he is joined by one of my favorite people in the world, by Cautionary's co-owner and one of the most legendary independent voices in comics. A man who's the creator of Badger and of Nexus with artist Steve Rude, two of the longest-lasting independent superhero comics. He has won 2 Eisner Awards and has written The Punisher, Flash, Deadman, Star Wars, and a bunch of others. He's also published 10 novels. Banshees, Domain, Helmet Head, Whack Job, Biker, Sons of Privilege, Not Fade Away, Sons of Bitches, Scorpio, and Disco. If that wasn't enough, he also finds time to write for the Boston Phoenix, Boston Globe, We, Fusion, Cream, Isthmus, Front Page Mag, and Ellery Queen's Mystery Magazine. How either of these two men find time to sleep is beyond me. And it is a true pleasure to introduce Big Benjamin Henderson and Inkpot Award winner, Mr. Mike Barron. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show, gentlemen. How are you this evening?
Good. I speak for Ben, too.
Oh, yeah, Ben's suffering with strep throat, so he's having a little problem speaking. Will you speak at all, Ben?
Just grunt.
Just grunt.
I think, Ben, you're muted. I think he's
Did you
muted
mute
on
us,
his
Ben?
end.
Absolutely, a little bit. But me and Mike are in sync, so he speaks for Cautionary. He's actually the editor-in-chief of Cautionary now.
So we've had
fantastic.
some. Oh boy, Mike. Yes. So now, Mike, you're never going to sleep.
I don't sleep anyway.
Well, welcome, my friend.
Sleeps
welcome.
for the week.
Well, I know this is crowdfunding comics, and we got a lot of questions regarding Ravage, Kill All Men, and Florida Man. But let's start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you guys got into comics.
Well, I became a fan when I picked up an Uncle Scrooge comic when I was growing up in South Dakota. And when I moved to Boston right after college, in fact, my first job out of college was smoking marijuana for the government. I lived on a hospital ward with 9 other volunteers for a month, and we smoked dope every day and took a lot of tests. It was just like college.
That's funny.
And you got paid for it.
Yeah, we did get paid for it, and that's how I broke into journalism. When I got out, I wrote it up for the Boston Phoenix and started writing for them. But I really only wanted to write fiction. And it wasn't until I moved back to Wisconsin in 1977 that things started happening. They didn't happen until '81, which is when I met Steve Rude. We created Nexus for Capital Comics, and that's how I broke into the industry. And I've written a lot of comics, and I've forgotten a lot of titles that I've written, and I'm embarrassed by many of the stories I told, but I'm encouraged because my writing is getting better.
Indeed, indeed. I mean, you write wicked good comics there.
Thank you.
Wicked.
Wicked good. So Big Ben, what about you?
Well, I went to high school at Duke Ellington School of the Arts for writing, and I've been writing ever since. Really, this character over here is a project of mine from my freshman year, and I kept rewriting it for 20 years. And I went into corporate America. I went into independent film production. I owned a company, Orb Films, for a while, and then I went into music production, Male Puerto Rico Productions. That's on iTunes with some great independent bands. And now I'm trying my hand at comic books, and we're working with the amazing Aaron and Jackson.
Well, I got to tell you, you've got a really interesting take on what's missing in today's comic books, and specifically the industry at large. And that was that you could not find any old school style comic books, right? That your sons and your daughters could enjoy.
No.
Or that focused on story. It's, or character or action or fun. It seems these big events that seem to go nowhere and peter out at the end. So, tell us about that, your frustration, and is that what led you to say, you know what, something's got to change?
It really is. Honestly, I was going to buy a Corvette versus making my own comic. That's the truth. I was going to buy a Corvette, and me and my oldest son, went to comic book stores over the past 10 years and conventions, and it just wasn't the same as when I was growing up.
Yeah.
It just wasn't. And my oldest son felt ostracized at the conventions. He felt ostracized at the stores that we would go to, since I went to since the 70s, and bought amazing stories from, Mike Barron and Billy Tucci and Chuck Dixon. Savage Sword of Conan was my first jam,
Nice.
And, and it was just a different industry, and I had wished that it would be what I remembered, but, I had also, written a lot myself. I wrote, I got optioned by a Hollywood production company. It never really blew up, but I had this stockpile of screenplays that I ended up writing into a comic book universe, and here we are. So, it's been fun, really, but that's what led me to it, was the lack of entertainment that I knew that we could have because we had it in the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, Ben, so I know you said you've written a bunch of screenplays and things, everything, and that all kind of transferred and transformed into this comic book universe that you've started creating. How many different titles have you written since you started or started to convert over?
So the ones that I feel are good, are worthy of development, are worthy of that I want to pursue are 50. I cut it down to 50 I traveled for 20 years. I traveled the world. I've been over to the Middle East. I've been to Europe. I've been everywhere. And I my hobby was creative writing, so I wrote a lot. And, I had a lot of time on the road. But, I'm really trying to take the cream of the crop and making those cautionary comics.
Oh, excellent.
Now, Mike, what was your motivation for literally buying and becoming a co-owner of a new comic book universe?
Well, Ben asked me to, and I've been developing material all this time, and my whole goal in storytelling, regardless of the medium, is to grab the reader by the throat in the first couple of pages and drag him, her, or it into the narrative so forcefully that they forget that they're experiencing artifice and enter completely into the adventure. And I think we can do that in comics in a way that hasn't been done before, or at least not often. And by that, I mean telling a story where every panel advances the story, where every panel matters, and where the dialogue just snaps and crackles from panel to panel.
Now, are you going to, because you can't write, I mean, and Chuck, of course, is the same way. I mean, I think I've had this conversation with Chuck about, every panel, because we do have to edit ourselves when we write, and at least us with the smaller books and things like that. The Marvel and DC can have these 9, 12, 15, 20-issue events, and, of 20, of the 20-page story, individual issues, 16 of them are people sitting around a table, a conference table, conversing.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah,
Conversing badly.
Yeah, indeed. And so, are you going to set a template for your other writers that you can keep that uniqueness to, and that separates your books from, let's be honest, the mainstream universes? Like, are you going to set up a template, and that's editor in chief? You got to be like, listen,
I think that I already have. If you look at the run of Nexus and a lot of Badger. But when I look back at those stories today, I'm unsatisfied because I can see places where I could have made it resonate more, where I could have done better on the dialogue. So I take my time when I write a script now. I do a detailed outline beforehand, and the outline itself has to be entertaining. It's something I want to be able to hand off to people, and they read it, and they can't stop reading it till they're done, and then they say, yeah, now I got to read the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
indeed.
And I really want Cautionary to focus on just 4 axioms, 4 principles: story, character, really story, right? We're telling you a story: character, action, and fun. If your creation does not provide those 4 pillars, then it's really not going to be accepted at Cautionary. If there's a political, I mean, that's really my focus.
So do you mind sharing who's a part of Cautionary? Who's the creative team? Who is Cautionary, and who are the players?
Sure. So the 4 founders are Chuck Dixon, Mike Barron, Brett R. Smith, and myself. Chuck Dixon and I, we co-own Ravage, Kill All Men. That was a very successful crowdfunding campaign from 2018. We're wrapping up fulfillment now. I think we're 90% done with it from the fulfillment team, and it's been a great time. So Chuck Dixon, myself, Brett R. Smith, and Mike Barron. For Ravage, it's myself, Chuck Dixon, and Ravage. It's myself, Chuck Dixon, and Jimbo Salgado and Brian Magnet. It's just been amazing working with these guys. And then for our other titles, The Off-Worlder and The Wraith, and some other future titles, it's me and Mike Barron.
Far out. Well done.
Excellent. Awesome.
Thank you.
Now, a vision thing between you guys. I mean, you have 4 really strong, fantastic creators, right? You're all different people. Do you have you guys clashed? Do you all share that same vision of the stories, or pretty much like your books are yours? And Mike's books are his, and Chuck's books are, you know what I mean? How do you guys?
Not at all.
No.
I worked. I've done the scripts for both Off-Worlder and The Wraith, and I worked very closely with Ben, using all his concepts and working off some outlines that he had prepared. So it's my job to bring Ben's vision to fruition. In the same way that if I were asked to write a Master of Kung Fu or a Silver Surfer comic, I would want that to be the best one that anyone had ever seen, and be true to the character.
Yeah, honestly, Mr. Tucci, I feel like I've been in the most amazing mentorship program that I could ever have begged for.
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
Just seeing how Chuck Dixon rewrote. Well, Ravage was originally called Savage. It was a movie, and then I wrote it into a 5-arc. I had rewritten it basically for a 5-arc structure for comic books, and then the amazing Mr. Chuck Dixon showed me what I got wrong rewriting that, right, and helped me understand from a dialogue perspective, and then that was Ravage, and then Mr. Dixon introduced me to Mike Barron, and we started going through my other concepts. These were based on screenplays, The Off-Worlder and The Wraith, and those will be coming up next, but I decided to put those on hold because Florida Man was so darn funny.
Also, the time is right.
The time is right.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? I want to wait. I want to see what I need to read Florida Man as a fan, as a Floridian. I'm a natural born Florida boy.
Flow grown?
I am. I was born here, guys. I was born here.
Born
So
and raised.
everything in Florida Man that you read is true from Mr. Mike Barron, but it's hilarious. But Mike, I don't want to steal your thunder with.
Well, as I was saying, I'm turning Florida Man into a novel, and each chapter is pretty funny. And with your permission, I'd like to read a little of it.
Oh, it's your show, please.
All right. Back at the resort, Gary and Crystal continued to snort coke and drink until Gary decided to catch and grill his own iguana. How hard can it be? Everybody was doing it, and the iguanas were everywhere. They would be easy to catch in the morning before it got too hot. But where would he find them? Fingering a monster doobie, Crystal inhaled on the bed, crossed her legs Indian style, placed her palms together, and said, "I will pray to the goddess Gaia to guide you in your search for the iguana." Gary gave her a thumbs up. "Sounds good." She passed Gary the doobie. "This ganja is so much better than what we get in Miami." "Yeah, I don't like to buy that Mexican shit. They lace it with paraquat and fuck knows what all. I sure would like to take an ounce of this shit back with us. Maybe you could hide it in your vagina." Crystal held up the package of rolling papers they'd brought. "Look at this package of zigzags. Jesus smoking a joint. If that ain't proof God intended us to get high, I don't know what is. This is sure as shit God's own reefer." All right, I'm going to cut ahead here to
That's
I'm
wonderful.
Cut ahead here to, I'm going to cut to the money
That's
shot.
the
Wait,
tamest part. That's the tamest part.
He didn't wake from his Valium-induced sleep until noon Friday, but quickly brought himself up to speed with rum and blow. Looking out onto their private patio, he spotted the fat yellow lizard sunning itself on a stucco wall. A seasoned gator hunter, Gary left their unit by the front door and crept around the house, keeping to the meticulously tended shrubbery until he lurked 5 feet from the animal, armed with a stout club. As Toots and the Maytals drifted up from the beach, Gary exploded from the bushes, ran forward, and clubbed the lizard across the head, killing it in one blow. What a beaut! Had to weigh 5 pounds. Holding the dead lizard by the tail, Gary entered through the open patio door and tossed the beast in Crystal's lap, where she sat Indian style, texting and scrolling. "Yeek! Skin it! We're having iguana for dinner." Crystal picked it up by the tail, twirled it around her head, and released it. With reflexes born of too much coke, Gary caught it in his left hand with the sound of a baseball hitting a catcher's glove. "Fuck you, Charlie Brown. You caught it. You skin it. You're about worthless. Oh, yeah? You tell me that the next time you want some pussy. Well, why don't you just go off with Mario the Cabana Boy? I seen you making eyes at him. Is that what you think of me, that I go to bed with a Jamaican?" Gary rethought his position. "Look here. If I prepare it, will you eat it? Is that all you're going to serve? Just the iguana? No jerk sauce or salad? Look here. I caught it. I'll skin it, and I'll cook it. But you got to bring something to the party. Why don't you take your sweet ass over to one of those restaurants and get us a big platter of greens to grow? Salad, rice and beans, jerk sauce. You know the drill. How are you going to grill it?" "I'm going to go buy me a grill and some charcoal from those dudes on the beach." So he goes down the beach, he gets some grill, blah, 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 blah. When Gary returned to his cabana, Crystal had procured the salad, side dishes, and 2 bottles of Ron Rico. Gary set to work on the patio, gutting and cutting up the iguana, leaving the head intact, as he'd been taught by his father. "You want to leave the head on the fish so you know what you're eating."
It's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
The not-so-heavenly aroma, fish-like, in fact, of grilling iguana wafted among the cabanas. Crystal set the patio table with silverware borrowed from the resort, and they sat down to eat. They had hardly taken their first bite when there was a knock on the door. Gary found Assistant Manager Lee Otis Harrison waiting politely, wearing crisp white trousers and a blue blazer with gold buttons, the Sandals logo emblazoned on his chest. "Yes, Mr. Duba, I'm very sorry to bother you, but we are receiving complaints that you are cooking. Perhaps you did not read all the rules, but it is forbidden you to cook in the patio. That is why we have provided 8 restaurants." "I'm sorry about that, Mr. Harrison. We won't do it again. I just wanted to sample some of the local game in my own way. I'm a hunter and fisher from way back. When I was growing up, half what we ate came out the swamp. What is it you are cooking, if I may ask? The local markets can be unreliable when it comes to hygiene. Come on back. Try it for yourself. Gary held the door as Harrison walked through the area living room out into the open patio to where Crystal stood to greet him. Hi, you want some rum and a line? Harrison froze at the edge of the patio and stared at the room service platter which occupied the center of the table. Dear God, he said. Yep, that's one prime iguana. Tastes just like chicken. Harrison took a step toward the table. Dear God, that is a Jamaican iguana. They are on the endangered species list. Only 300 are believed to exist. No shit. Well, I guess they're down to 299 now. This is very serious. We at Sandals are committed to the Jamaican ecosystem and preserving our biosphere. I must ask you to stop cooking right now. Do not take another bite. I'm afraid there will be very serious repercussions. Wait here. The manager will be in touch with you shortly. An hour later, they were ordered to pack their bags and leave. The first couple ever evicted from Sandals.
All right, so when you do this as a,
Yeah.
when you do this as a crowdfunded, as an Indiegogo, you have to have an audio.
I was just gonna say that.
I got to finish writing the book first.
Well, yeah, well, you'll be done with it by then. And if not, they'll wait because it's worth the wait.
Yeah.
That's funny shit. People are saying this. I have to see this as a movie, you know. So you gotta.
I mean, Mike, you're pretty well on the path, though. I mean, you're not too far off from finishing.
Well, I have 30,000 words. I'd say I'm probably about a third of the way through because I have a lot of plot. We'll see. I mean, I could end it at any time. I just have a good sense is this a proper place to end it, which goes into my whole theory of storytelling. You have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the ideal ending comes as both a complete surprise and seems perfectly natural in retrospect.
Well, I'm looking forward to pledging to that myself, and I want the audiobook.
Yeah,
I
me
love
too.
pictures. I love funny books, but I want an audio book of that.
Yeah.
So all right, so now we know what Florida Man is. So Ben, let's get to Ravage, Kill All Men. Now the tagline is probably the greatest tagline in Indiegogo history, and it is: two Army veterans crash in a mystical jungle populated by a lost tribe of toxic women that hunt men! Exclamation point. Now, I got to say, this sounds like an awesome 1960s pulp novel or an awesome movie starring like William B. Smith or something like that.
Yeah, Brie Larson has expressed interest.
Yeah.
Oh, has she?
You know, it's definitely a grindhouse kind of flick, right? You know, think like, you know, Lethal Weapon meets, you know, Frazetta, right? You know, like that's really the nexus of Ravage, Kill All Men, and then you know, working with Chuck Dixon, he just does everything great. You know,
Yeah, you gotta call when you refer to Chuck. I think we should all refer to him as the great Chuck Dixon.
The great Chuck Dixon. I mean, it's just this past year through everything has, you know, working with Mike Barron and Chuck Dixon has just been it for me. It's you know, I'm working on a lot of I'm rewriting a lot of my other work because of my work with them.
Oh yeah, you'll learn for sure. I mean, but
Yeah.
you know, clearly you've struck a chord with the fans. You know, as you know, Ravage is a crowdfunding monster. I mean, so far your Indiegogo campaign and then with the VIP package you've raised over $53,000.
Yeah.
Holy crap!
You know, I mean, I'd like to say a lot of it's because my name's on the title, but it's all Chuck Dixon. It's Jimbo Salgado. So Chuck and Jimbo, I pitched them my ideas, and they said, you know what, those are cool.
Yeah.
And then Mike Barron said, I pitched him my ideas, and he said, you know, those are cool. So, you know, it's been just it's just been a dream for me. This is my fun, you know, just being able to work with amazing creatives and getting my content out there. It's just, you know, really
Dream come true, huh?
It's a dream come true.
It's a dream come true, man.
Yeah, it really is. I've been telling my kids, you know, I'm like, if you don't stop and you keep I have 6 kids, you know, and I keep telling them, if you don't stop and you believe in yourself and you keep improving, you improve. I get a lot of people writing to me and saying, hey, can you publish me, or can you tell me the trick to Indiegogo? And there really isn't one. It's, building up your own social media following, building your fan base, and launching something you believe in. Right?
Yeah, 'cause people
Yeah, you
see
don't give
that,
up
they'll
on the
see-
journey, man.
Yeah,
Right.
and they'll see your enthusiasm, and I've always told people enthusiasm is contagious. Now, I'm glad you brought that up, that to move us towards this, because there are a lot of people that watch the show that want to start crowdfunding their own comics. And so my question is, when you and Chuck started Ravage, did you have a minimum number that you wanted to raise? And if you did, was it enough to do it? Because like with us, we asked for $15,000. We actually need more than that, a lot more than that, for our 72-page book. But you want to, it's a risk, so you ask for that smaller number so you get funded faster, and then Indiegogo sees that, people see that it's a successful campaign. So is that what you did, or like I said, what was the minimum you guys wanted, and what was it like watching those numbers go up?
Wow. Well, so the minimum, we were wrong about all of our numbers. We were wrong about I was wrong, not we, there is no we. I was wrong about everything. My original idea, and pardon my voice, my throat's just a little raspy, but my original idea was to create a 12-page Ravage like Brian Pulido's Evil Ernie #1 that I had in the 90s,
Yeah.
I was like, hey, put my pitch out there. I'm going to see if people dig it. I can pay for it myself.
Yeah.
And I was able to get Jimbo Salgado, who I love his art, to say, you know what, brother, I believe in I pitched him my story and why I wanted to do it. And he said, I believe in you, and we're going to do it. And then I was able to talk to Chuck Dixon, and he said, wow, he liked it, and we grew from there. So, long story short, no, we did not budget correctly. I think our first was about $5,000, which is what I estimated. I thought maybe we'd get a couple hundred people. We ended up getting 2,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah. So we needed a much bigger infrastructure. A lot of that was with amazing YouTubers like Ethan Van Sciver and that Umbrella guy and lots of people that helped us, really advocate for our stories, right? And give us a platform to pitch our stories, and we'll be forever grateful for that. And it's just on and on from there. We thank you all, both of you, for allowing us on your platform. It's a special thing, and we very appreciate you talking to everybody in the chat.
Oh, you got it. Well,
yeah,
we think it's a great. When we were going through this, when Nile and I started about 5 weeks ago, we were going through projects and calling friends and things like that, and we saw that, right, Nile? We were like, oh man, we gotta get this guy up.
Yeah. It was a plethora. I mean, it was so much fun. Yeah, you were right there. Actually, I think you're like one of our top 20 or something. We just were going through hundreds of these projects, and it was just it's crazy. It's crazy what's out there.
Steve McQueen would be in this movie.
Yeah.
We got a lot more coming, and the next up is Florida Man, and we made that decision as a team, as co-owners, because it's the funniest thing we had, it's the coolest thing we had, and it's the most, I think, broadly. I don't know, Mike. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. But I just think it has the broadest appeal of everything we have.
I think it has breakout appeal. It's going to appeal to a lot of people who aren't really regular comic readers, because they know about Florida Man. He's become a meme everywhere. Hardly a story goes by that there's not a new Florida Man story, or a Florida girl, or a Florida dog, or gator. In fact, there's the Florida Man Challenge, which is you go to a search engine and you enter Florida Man and your birth date, and something will come up. Mine was Florida Man clings to hood of car racing at 75 miles an hour down highway. And I was grateful for that, because it could have been worse.
I mean, you guys knew I had to do this. I'm a Florida boy. I was born down here in North Florida. So, and I'll tell you, Floridians are going to love this. It's dead spot on with some stuff that we've seen. The culture at large it's not a mocking thing. It's just a funny adventure. I forgot.
It's not what people think. They're going to be surprised when they read this. And by that, I mean it has a lot more depth and characterization and heart than they imagine.
When I got through the third of it, I think I forgot almost, Mike, but I forgot that it was Florida. It was just, it could have been everywhere. It was some good stuff that was just fun and universal and hilarious and action-packed. So yeah, we had to get that out first.
So what made you guys actually come up with Florida Man, though? Like, what?
That's all my idea.
I'll be
It
telling
just popped into your head?
I was talking to Mike about my life and childhood, but Mike, no, go ahead, tell him.
Well, also because every time a Florida Man story would pop up on the internet, which is like every day, I would post it in our little cautionary comic group,
right.
to have a laugh, And,
Well,
I just every day, and then it just hit me. I said, "Well, this is just crying out for a story."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really
And
is.
I tell him all of those stories were true.
Wow. Well,
It's true.
yeah, I have a lot. My family's all from Florida too, so they a lot of them from Fort Myers and stuff, and the
Nice.
stories are crazy. But is Jimbo Salgado and Brian Magne working on that too?
So it's Brett R. Smith doing the colors and
Okay.
Todd Mulrooney doing the art
Oh,
on
Todd,
Florida.
okay.
It's a different team for
Can
Florida.
you tell us about Todd?
We've been posting some of his art. Why don't you see his cover right there?
Is that the one with him on the alligator?
That's it.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Well, that's
brilliant.
is that an alligator or is that an iguana?
It's an alligator.
Gator, man.
you must know your reptiles.
The
Hey,
gator.
Yeah, I just Googled my name, my birthday, and mine is Florida man charged with manslaughter and stand your ground shooting.
Mhm.
So mine's not
Very
funny.
appropriate, Billy.
Yeah, great. Oh well.
That's every other day. That's
Yeah,
every other
he
day.
shot some dude.
Mine was
Tried to beat him
a
up.
Florida man burned house down, venging off vampires. Burned his own
That's
house
also
down.
every other day, sir. That's every other day.
Oh man, we've got so Caesar Feliciano. So I'm in Connecticut. Caesar was in Connecticut. He recently moved down to Florida, and Caesar's another creator. He actually has a crowdfunding project coming up, but he just posted that I moved down here in October, and I certainly feel like I'm becoming a Florida man.
Get one of these hats, man, that keeps the sun off your neck and your face.
That's it right there.
There you go.
What? Anything particular with the band, so we don't look like tourists? Like, is there a Florida man type of band?
Just keep it plain. Just keep it plain. Not too fancy.
All right. Well, let's get some questions to these guys, Nile, about about crowdfunding and what made them, know.
So yeah. So all right. So you have cautionary comics. You have everything going on. I mean, what made you roll up your sleeves and say, "Hey, let's go for this Indiegogo thing"?
Well, for myself, the first cautionary comic, which was Ravage, I was reading everything from 06 and on, and I said, I went to a writing program. I've written a lot. I figured I can do better than what the pros are doing.
Mm-hmm.
I just believed in myself. I was reading the quality, and I knew it was going down. If the quality was better, I would have never done this.
Mm-hmm.
If my 6 kids were saying, this is awesome, and, the editors, everything's great, and I don't know if I would have ever done this, but I figured I can do better. I always wanted to do better. It's just not something I pursued because I pursued more corporate America.
Mm-hmm.
And, when it got to that point in my life where I could do it, I looked around and I said, geez, there's just not a lot of good stories.
Yeah.
The stories are shallow, if you look back in the day, right? Let me, look back in the, G.I. Joe #2.
Oh yeah.
Heading to the Antarctic. There's a mission here. There's a story here that I'm going to get into, right?
Yeah.
There was not a lot. Let me see. What else there was not a lot like that,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Boom.
Yeah.
It's something you want to get into. There was nothing my kids that they just jumped into and said, I have to have this, Dad,
Mm-hmm.
and
So would you say the adventure in that, where you lose yourself in the adventure and the story was just, it was going away and you're,
Yes.
hey, I think I can bring this back and I'm going to bring it back.
when I was young, I grew up in Washington, D.C. It was a rough time, but the comic book store was almost sacred. It was like Highland, it was the holy ground where we could all just get together and geek out about who was stronger, Thor or Hulk or the Thing or the Hulk or whoever, and just enjoy the time. And I felt that was going away, over from 06 to 2010. It was supposed to be an escapist zone.
Yeah.
And that was going away, and I broke my heart. So I wanted to figure out a way to, do what I could. Mm-hmm. And now all of mine are mature reading. At least, I view it above teen,
Unlike Florida Man, which is all ages.
Yeah.
No, we're just slapping it.
Hey, that's a good tip where to hide your Coke. I'll tell you that much.
The most dangerous comic in the world.
I'll be honest, all cautionary comics, you need to be careful, but we put mature readers on the top. And that was another point, I wanted to put a big mature readers on the top of my comics so that parents, when they walk through the aisle, could, easily see what was what. I had kids from, like I said, I have 6 kids, so I had boys from, and that were going into comic book stores all the time. I tried to get my girls in there, but they didn't like them. They liked my older comics. I'll be honest. They loved Storm. They loved Jean Grey. They loved Invisible Woman. They didn't like any of the current comics. If they did, I would have shut my mouth and just bought them, but they didn't. So, here we are. But
now you're making your own.
Exactly. Mine are more for mature readers, but, I wanted to, put out my stories the way I wanted, more college age and up. And I wanted to do it on my terms. And here we are, for better or worse.
Now, I have a question. It's actually something that I haven't asked anyone yet. So, obviously, the premise of our show is really to talk about crowdfunding. Now, you're going through the crowdfunding process, but do you also reach out to your local comic shops like, hey, I'm working on this project, I've got this going on, and are you looking to see if they'll take that as well?
Have 2 extra dimes to rub together. I would not ask them to contribute, but I would ask them to carry the book.
I did, and my local comic book shops, who have been around since I was like 8, it was an amazing thing to see my comics in there. They all bought the packs. Many of us had the local comic book store packs on our Indiegogo. So honestly, most of my pack sales were from local comic book stores.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I'll tell you, man, I know you're talking about that nostalgia. Like you go in, I'll tell you, and maybe you can, this is the same for you, but there's one place I always went where I actually went in there and felt 101% myself. And it's the only place I've ever gone where I felt that way, and it was my local comic shop.
Me too.
And
I actually did a video of it, and I remembered my little brothers being in there, my little sister wanting us to leave. Into it. It was amazing to see my comic in there.
If I could jump in, Ben, you have your retailer packs. Do you have that discounted for, like, do they have to order 10 books? Like, how does that work? So
what I did,
I want to know that because I want to do that next too.
I did it at cost. I viewed it as a marketing promotion. If somebody is willing to give me shelf space, at least, especially when I'm a newbie, we're only a year and a half in. Nobody knows our projects just yet. Our universe is unfolding. I wanted to give the stores that have gone through so much, over the past 10 years, I wanted to give them a leg up. So I just gave it to them at cost during my last Indiegogo.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Smart. Why did you choose Indiegogo over Kickstarter?
I'll be honest. I guess I'll say it here. I'm still having problems with Kickstarter.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've reached out to them about a couple things, and, they're not bad, but they're just not for myself, they're just not as easy to work with as Indiegogo has been.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting. That is really interesting. Okay. Let's start talking about some fun stuff here. Do you guys believe in fate? Like, do you think, were there signs growing up that led you to where you are today and that you're actually writing comics?
Yes. Mike?
I don't know. timing is everything. You know, it's you got to have talent, you got to have luck, and you need both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think some of it's fate, man. You know,
Maybe.
like, it is how we meet people and how things unfold, and the years we decide to do things, and you know, I don't know.
No, I agree with you on that one. I mean, I'll even just maybe even with me and Billy here. You know, it was basically almost 1 year later, and all of a sudden we have this show. You know, it
Yeah.
started off with his first Kickstarter. I had a show. I just said, "Hey, man, I really believe in what you're doing. I think this is great. You mind if I, you know, put this up on my show as like a, hey, everyone support this and that." And you know, next thing you know,
he did a live stream of our Kickstarter launch.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
yeah,
Never
no, it was a
in
blast.
my wildest dreams would I have thought that my stories that I had written all these years would be even touched by Chuck Dixon and Mike Barron.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
I think, yeah, it's crazy, and it's just a long road of writing and rewriting and reading, and you know, everybody's like, "Wow, how are your stories great?" Well, I read great writers, you know, and I
Exactly.
read great comics, and I love them, and I want to keep them the same. I don't want to destroy them. I want to add to it. You know, the cool. It's like a lot of people forgot what was cool.
Exactly.
Well,
It was cool with comics, the adventure, the
Yeah.
loss, and you know. And I'm going to jump into one of my questions here. Then, so when you go to conventions now, obviously you're starting to get into the industry. Your name's getting known. You have a publishing company, but there has to be guys that when you see, oh my God, so and so just walked in, guys. Like, who do you fanboy over? Do you fanboy over still?
You know what's sad right now, and I'm going to tell you this honestly, is but I'll just tell it honestly, that I can't say who I fanboy over because I worry about them, and I love them. So I don't want to say if I fanboy over per se, because you know, for various reasons, you know, I don't know. It's just a different industry. You know what I mean? Where there's some big greats, but they end up getting kind of they end up getting a hard time often, you know, when
Yeah.
the indies kind of focus on the pros.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what I've seen. So the pros that I like, I just don't talk about, and the indies I talk about. The indies I love, I talk about like crazy.
Yeah. I do understand where you're coming. Mike, same question for you. I mean, is there anyone still in the industry, someone that you just get very excited to see at a convention or anything?
Well, I like to see old friends, and if I'm familiar with new talent, I like to meet new talent.
Yeah.
I've been lucky. I've met a lot of the greats. I met Jack Kirby. I met Will Eisner,
Wow.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic.
Archie Goodwin, Denny O'Neil. Denny's still with us.
Yep.
Guys like that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
I once
awesome
I
memories to
interviewed-
have.
I interviewed Stan Lee for Cream Magazine.
And how was that, huh?
Huh.
You like?
Oh, Stan's a great guy. You know,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
a fine interview. I interviewed Jim Warren too.
I actually met Jim Warren once at a New York licensing show, and he came up to me and I had this big 15-foot high she, and he's like, "Yeah, this reminds me of a comic book character I created called Vaporella," and I'm like, "Vaporella?" I said, "Are you Jim Warren?" And he goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh my God!" So it was cool.
Is
That's
there
right.
anybody, Mr. Tucci or Mr. Barron, is there anybody that you guys would like to still meet? Or
You
even
know, I
Hollywood?
got to throw this
or
in
music.
because Ben went to Duke Ellington High School. I met Duke Ellington.
That's cool, man.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
That's super cool.
and probably the greatest celebrity encounter I've ever had in my life. I wish I had had the presence of mind to take a photo, but I'm a huge jazz nut, and I met a lot of great jazz musicians. I'm thinking in comics, you know, I'm awed by the art, but I'm no longer the kind of kid that gets weak in the knees when you meet Jack Kirby. You know, I'd like to meet these guys. I like to see what they're doing. But you know, I'm not creaming in my jeans when I meet anyone these days.
Yeah.
I'll say that DC Comics gives me the most hope of any comic book any of the big comic book companies.
Oh, is that DC you
I
said?
love this, yeah, DC. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they're doing I like.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm happy about. There's some creators in there that are very creative, and create their own worlds and have their own vision, and I love that. You know, when somebody has their own creation that's well thought out. It's their own sandbox, and I, that's what I've tried to do. I've spent a decade creating my own sandbox of stories and different IPs and in that universe. And that's a special thing when you have something mapped out like that. And a lot of the creators I see now at DC have their own, or their own vision at least, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, they are. They do. I see what you're saying. They are. They're starting to have. It appears at least that they're starting to have some control over what they're doing. Which, though, I'll be honest, I kind of started going a little different direction. I'm actually in love and infatuated with this whole self-publishing and crowdfunding and creator-owned stuff. Because, nowadays, every tool is here for you. Everything is here for you.
Right.
And really, it doesn't cost you anything. The only, what's going to cost you is getting your physical product. No one's going to give you your physical product. But everything else you need is at your fingertips, and it's here. And as long as you're diligent, you're patient, you want to work, because it is endless. I don't sleep much. I'm sure you guys don't sleep much.
No.
It is a journey, and when you're dedicated to it and you use all these tools, you really can get there. And another question, and I'll get off that topic. I don't want to rabble on, because I can with that. So speaking of all these great creators and stuff, for Ben and Mike, is there anyone that you would love to collaborate with, or maybe a crossover comic with one of your creations and another publishing company's creation, or another creator owned?
Yes.
Is there anyone out there you would love to work with?
Yes, and Chuck and I have discussed it, but we're thinking of writing a novel together which would feature his character, Levon, and my character, Josh Pratt, from the Biker series. And I just have to work up an outline, and then we'll get started on that.
Awesome. Ben?
I
Great.
I love Zombie. So it's a veteran-owned, it's a veteran-focused comic. It's a cool comic. It's an independent comic. I think it won indie comic.
Excuse me,
somewhere.
Ben. Broke up a little bit there. What was the name of that comic?
Oh, Rags Zombie. Rags.
Rags Zombie.
Rags Zombie.
I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, me neither.
Oh, it's a cool comic, guys. It's veteran-owned. It's a cool zombie comic, but it's also deeper than that. It deals with PTSD. It deals with the traumas of war. I dug it personally. So yeah, that's one for me. I told that crew, I said, anytime you guys want, you can make something in the universe of Ravage.
Oh, awesome. Very awesome. Billy, you got any other fun questions to throw in?
Yeah, I want to say, and this one usually asked, but I'm going to ask this one, all right? If someone came up to you and said, gentlemen, I'm going to launch my own comic book publishing company. Give me your best advice. What is the best advice you can give someone? Like something you did right.
Well, I don't know shit about business. If I did,
I'd say number one, and a lot of people forget this, just the fundamental stuff. Incorporate yourself. Get an EIN number. Get your work copywritten. At least, register it with the Writers Guild or something.
What number did you say?
An EIN number, which is like
what is that?
It's in a federal number for a business. Basically you incorporate like an S corp or an LLC, and keep that separate from your own Social Security number. I would recommend, please do that. Protect yourself. I would say number two, make sure your branding is on point. Get a website up. Pay an extra $500 for a good logo. Don't look like a chump. Like you only get one chance to make a first impression.
Yeah.
So I try to make sure our logos look good, our pitch is solid. Two Army veterans crash into an uncharted jungle populated by a lost tribe of warrior women that hunt and kill men.
Yeah.
Survive or die trying.
Yeah.
Just making a good pitch of what your story is and why. If you can't get excited about your story, why will anyone else get excited about your story?
Hey, very true, man.
Right. Now let's ask about the important things, right, Nile? Mistakes.
Yes.
Your favorite thing, Nile.
Yeah, you gotta there's gotta at least be one mistake you've encountered. Preferably, let's say in the crowdfunding field. Is there anything that you're gonna tell someone, definitely don't do this?
Never register anything under your own social security number. Make sure you have a separate business. I thought Ravage was going to be kind of a smaller deal, and I'm glad I was wrong. But, that's number one. And then, I would say just don't get ahead of your skids. Make sure you're really happy to show everybody your work before you release it.
All right.
Smart.
Good advice. Good advice.
Excellent advice. Yeah. Speaking of advice, what's the best advice you guys ever got?
Don't quit your day job.
It's so hard, though. You want to when you're doing this stuff.
No, I'm just joking. I got a lot of great advice from a lot of people that helped me along the way. They helped me learn how to write. Pete Brandvold, the Western writer. Other names were. I once talked to the great literary agent Al Zuckerman, who headed Writer's House. He founded it. And he said that a great story is like a football game, where at the beginning the execrable Bears chase the sainted Packers down to their end zone. It looks like the Bears are going to score. But on the next play, the Bears fumble, the Pack regains, and they drive the Bears back to their end zone. And that's how the story goes, back and forth, so that the ending is always in doubt.
That is great advice. Ben, what about you, specifically about crowdfunding your book? What advice did you get someone about how to do an Indiegogo campaign?
I guess the best advice, and I'm still working on it, is build up your own social media following, build up your own YouTube channel, your own DLive channel, your own Twitch channel, focus on all of it. Focus on what you're good at. Maybe it's gaming, maybe it's news, maybe it's comics, you can get enough subscribers, you can sell them pet rocks. Remember pet rocks?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you 100,000 subscribers, you'll make $800,000 off of pet rocks.
Yeah.
Well,
My pet rock had a lot of litters. I got rocks everywhere. All over the place, man. But hey, you know what I'd love to do? Because we're nearing the end of the show, guys. It's been a blast. But I would love to I want to switch over to our desktop view, and I want to show everyone, if you don't mind, the Indiegogo, the full trailer for Ravage Kill All Men, so people can get a better idea of what this book's about,
I never mind that.
there you go.
All right, here we go.
In a world where death is a heartbeat away, man-hating warrior women battle with demon-worshipping lizard men, and our heroes are stuck in the middle. Manny Mendez and Randall Gunn, our two veteran warriors, are torn from our world and thrust into a bare-knuckle fight for survival. The only justice in this land comes at the sharp end of a blade, and it ain't even close to social. Chuck Dixon and Ben Henderson invite you to dive into a savage land of adventure, a red-blooded comic that kicks ass from start to finish, with lethal vixens who will seduce you and then gut you like a pig in the morning. Cautionary Comics presents Kill All Men, only on Indiegogo.
That's awesome.
Boom.
Book looks great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So what's the future of Ravage? I mean, where do you are you gonna go further with it?
We have the Kill All Men saga. We have 4 more books. It's going to be a 5-issue arc. Then that leads to Ravage, the next saga. We have many more sagas written for Ravage. The next books are the Ravage #2 is almost done. Mm-hmm. And I think the next campaign we're going to offer something very much like a VIP pack, where we'll give you the whole graphic novel. We'll give you, the rest of the issues, the floppies 1 through 5, in a box in a big VIP pack, and be able to finish off the saga. People seem to like to binge watch, so we want to offer that to them.
All right,
excellent. And this is truly turning into a cautionary comics week, as we have Friday. The other co-owner of Cautionary Comics, Chuck Dixon, is coming on at 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And for those of you living under a rock for the past 30-some-odd years, Chuck is a comic book writer with thousands of titles to his name, including his record run on Batman, for DC, and where he co-created the villain Bane with our pal, the great Graham Nolan.
Yes, sir.
And of course, his incredible work on the Punisher. So to say that Nile and I are pumped to have the cautionary crew here would be an understatement. So thank you,
cream
boys.
in our jeans.
Thank you for having us.
And maybe it's time for some fun questions. Nile, what do you think?
All right, I need to ask this question because it's deeper. There's a deeper meaning here. And coming from Florida, I have to believe that you do believe in some of these. But this is I'm gonna start with Ben and then Mike.
I think they've seen some of these.
They may have. They may have.
I probably have.
Do you believe in UFOs, Bigfoot, or ghosts? And I'm gonna throw this in because it was thrown in lessons. And Loch Ness.
Yes, and yes.
Have you
Really?
witnessed
Loch Ness
anything?
Monster?
You never know what's in the center of the world. The center of the planet. You don't think there's already been scientifically discovered that there is oceans in the middle of the planet. So what else could be living in that?
Wow. No.
Ben?
Yeah, Mike, what about you?
What's the question?
Do you like ramen noodles?
Yeah, no. do you believe in UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts, or the Loch Ness Monster? None of them.
Nope.
Not even a ghost.
Nope.
All right.
Wow.
All right, so boys, we're going to ask a question. This is just a personal thing for us. You're told that this weekend you cannot work on anything comic book related. You could do whatever you want, but it can't involve comics. What's your weekend plans?
Well, I'll be writing this Florida Man novel.
Okay, and no writing a novel. What does Mike Barron like to do?
Well, if the weather's nice, I'm going to get out on my motorcycle. I know you want to do that, Billy.
Yes, sir, I do.
Oh, nice. What kind of bike do you have?
I have a Shadow 750 and a 1979 CB 650.
Ooh.
Nice.
I love it.
Yeah, what about you? Does that have drum brakes?
Both those bikes have a front disc and a rear drum. The 650 I love because it stinks of gas when you start it up. It's old, it's temperamental.
I love that.
How about you, Ben?
If I could do anything, it'd probably be camping it with my kids. I got 6 kids and a beautiful wife, and that's probably what I do.
Oh, very
that's
good.
Awesome.
Family
okay,
man.
So, gentlemen, one last thing. What's not terrifying, like you seen a dog get hit by a car in front of you or something like that. But what's the scariest thing to ever happen to you? Florida man, you go first.
Oh, well, I suppose when we were 16 years old, we set out to borrow my friend Dave Ritterbush's parents' car, and we were in his second-story window in the middle of winter in Mitchell, South Dakota, and we decided to climb out the window. And I climbed out the window, and as I started to climb, I started to slip right towards the edge there. And I don't know how I managed to stop myself, but that was pretty scary. Also, another time I threw a water balloon in through the open window of a van carrying some kind of electricians, and I was a young kid, but they stopped right there, and for the next 4 hours, they hunted me through the neighborhood for 4 hours. It was like the most dangerous game or Rogue Mail or something. And I was just terrified.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Mike, what's the next con you're going to? Because I got to meet up with you. We got to have a beer. I got to hear some stories,
I don't
man.
have any cons. I keep writing these cons, but I never get responses. I haven't been to a con in the East except for Florida last year. I don't know if that counts, but yeah, I'd love to meet up.
We got to change that.
You were at the Terrific Con last year. We had dinner.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, that was a good
yeah,
time.
no, that was great. I wouldn't mind going back to Terrificon.
Good. We'll talk to
great
Mitch.
show.
We'll talk to Mitch. We'll get you back over there.
All right.
And all right, well, guys, I believe Mike, you have a new YouTube channel.
We're working on. Yeah, I do have a YouTube channel, and right now I think we just posted my inspirational speech. Baby, did we just post my inspirational speech?
Yes.
Yeah. What's the YouTube channel called? You know what? I'll post it in. Yeah. Okay. I'll give you a link right now. Yeah, it's Ann and Mike Barron. Where should I post this?
We'll post it right into the comments. And then we'll add it. We'll add it to the description of the show. So for any viewers that are going to watch this after we're live in syndication, they can check it out.
Place for comments here.
There's a live stream going. I'll find it.
All
Now,
right.
And what's some of your other things? Give us some of your other YouTube channel. Ben, please, your Cautionary Comics website, your Twitter.
CautionaryComics.com, CautionaryComics.com. You can reach us. I'm on YouTube at the Caution Zone, if you want to come check this out. And then on YouTube, on Twitter, Cautionary Comic. And then, of course, Cautionary Comics on Facebook. You can catch us there as well.
Excellent.
Yeah, I posted that link on your page, Billy.
Perfect.
I also just want to say I have a new novel out. It's called Disco. It's about a boy who raises a mongrel pup to be world disc dog champion. And I wrote it for my wife.
Ah.
Because I said, why don't you read one of my books, Ann? She said, I can't read anything you've written. It's all too gruesome. Please write something I can read.
Well, gentlemen, this has been a true pleasure.
Yes, it has. Thank you, guys.
We've gone over a little bit, but it was fun.
Okay.
And my son, while I was looking off cameras, that my son drew me a Mickey Mouse.
Oh, that's wonderful.
He just started drawing.
Oh, that's great.
So, isn't that great?
Look at that.
Great.
Nice.
Proud dad moment. Anyway, tell him to stay away from being an artist.
There-
He's in welding now in high school. He goes for tech, and I went stick to welding. Do that. You'll be great at it. You'll be real happy. So anyway, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You guys rock, man. Nile, do we have a crowdfunding call out?
Yes. Tonight we have a crowdfunding call out for the case of the littlest umbrella. So I'm going to play that video for you guys.
Oh, I backed it, and I love Tug.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go, guys.
Hey there. So today I want to introduce you to my project. This is the tale of the littlest umbrella, an all-ages Lovecraftian extravaganza celebrating things that go bump in the night. We begin with a monstrous mystery foretelling something dark and foreboding, creating a quandary requiring a special expertise that only an umbrella guy and, unknown to him, a little sidekick can employ. This is something that I've wanted to be able to do forever, too, because horror as a genre is my first love, and because I recall the fascination of being first introduced to comics and remembering that books out there, they can and should be for everyone. It basically allows me to give back to that medium and to give back to people that have loved this medium with me for so long.
That's terrifying.
I appreciate it.
It is.
Look at that,
Another
right?
thing
Oh my gosh.
I want to note with this
It looks
project
cool.
is the quest for the Goody Bird, an Alice in Wonderland
All right, I'm
exploration
signing
of
off.
enigma that
All right,
is
my
only
friend.
place.
All right,
you
have
very
a good
much,
night.
So much
Okay,
time.
thank you.
What exactly
Thanks, Mike.
is a Goody Bird? This will follow a tale being sung through the ages. What is the Goody Bird? What strange land does it hail from? How can we find out? Addition 15
Tug's book is going great. That's awesome.
Where's he at now? Where's Tug at?
I think over 30,000.
I think it's about 34,000. We'll see shortly
So
once
check
this
out
video
this
stops.
project,
Yeah,
look
somebody
at
sent
it,
me this
see
video
what
about me
you
when
think
the
about
guy
it,
wanted to
enjoy
murder
it
me.
as we put
And
it
then I subscribed to him because I was like,
I appreciate
and he's got a great voice. What a great voice he
34.
has.
Oh yeah.
33.
33,000. Well, let's all
35,292.
support Tug
Yep.
and the case of the littlest umbrella. And Ben, this has been fantastic, brother. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man.
Thanks,
Thanks
dude,
so
for
much,
having
Ben.
Great luck with everything. When you guys launch Florida, man, come back on.
We will.
I don't know if you do anything Friday night, but maybe if you want to pop in and say hello to Chuck and do a little guest star appearance. I think we're going to have Bo Smith come in, too, and ask some questions for Chuck.
Anytime you guys want me, just let me know.
Awesome, buddy. You're a great sport. And like I said, tomorrow, Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, we have Jimmy Palmiotti coming on. So, of course, Jimmy from Painkiller James.
I'll be watching.
He's awesome. You want to learn something? He is the godfather of crowdfunding comics. And, of course, with all the success and how much he's inspired and changed Harley Quinn. I mean, personally, I think if it wasn't for him and Amanda, there would be no Suicide Squad movie, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to him. He's launching Painkiller Jane again. I think that launches tomorrow as well.
Wow.
So we'll be hyping that up. He's going Kickstarter. He's done a lot of Kickstarter campaigns, and he's freaking awesome. He's a great guy, great guest, and I'm sure we'll go over like we did now. So we don't want to keep you, my friend. Thank you all. If you guys can like it or if you can subscribe to us, what do they do, Nile? They hit the bell?
Yes. So remember to share us, subscribe to us if you haven't subscribed, and remember, hit that little bell because that bell is going to notify you when we're live and or when we upload videos. So please spread the word. Let's let this grow because we are here. We're advocates for the self-publishers, the crowdfunders, the creator-owned, and all you awesome creators and fans out there. So thank you again. It's been an awesome show, and we look forward to seeing you all on Wednesday.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Now, Mike had to blow off, so he said goodbye to us while the video was running. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but thank you both. Great luck with you. Can't wait for Florida Man. Really can't wait for Florida Man. And we'll talk to you soon. All right, buddy?
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks, Ben. Bye.